Hey everyone, it's Clint. Welcome to Sweetcast. I made a video for yesterday, and I decided not to post it because it was lazy. It was very low effort. So I decided it's better not to post a video than to post one that low effort. So you're welcome. Beyond that, though, I know that there are a lot of people that talked about this particular story, but it's worth talking about because while I haven't listened to everyone's video, actually disagree with a lot of the takes that have been put out there about it, or maybe have some compare and contrast. I don't know, you decide. But comic book writers and artists follow other creators to Subtrack. Now, the first question that everyone's asking is what on earth is Subtrack, and why on earth would so many comic book writers and artists all at the same time be going to Subtrack? The answer is, it's not a coincidence. This is done purposely. Of course it is. So make no mistake about that. This was intentional. The question is this going to be better for the comic book industry or worse for the comic book industry? The short is it's going to be better for the comic book industry. And that's because for those of us in indie comics that are already finding success in indie comics, this is no skin off your nose. This is at best another good option, and at worst it tells the big two that they need to wake up and step up, essentially. So it's a win-win situation for us. Now, for these creators that are moving over strictly doing creator-owned stuff, maybe it's a bit of a risk. Can they not go back to mainstream comics, though? Sure they can. I'm sure they would get hired. Maybe. If not, though, if bridges have been burned behind the scenes, then this has to work for them. Again, does it matter to you? It's only positive. This is only positive. So what exactly is happening here? In recent years, dozens of top journalists, historians, and essayists have tried their luck as solo practitioners on Subtracks, the digital newsletter platform that has built an audience on more than 500,000 subscribers since it started in 2017. Now, this is a relatively new platform, 2017, and 500,000 subscribers is a very small number of people for a platform. When you compare this to YouTube, it's not even close to what's happening. However, 500,000 people that are specifically interested in reading content, that's how they like to absorb content, is by reading. Perhaps that could be a good demographic. One of the major problems that comics suffer from is that many people don't read. They might actually be buying comic books for the covers. They're books after all. They're not buying prints, they're buying books. But if they're not reading them, what's to keep them buying more comics? For the covers? What? So this is actually, the concept makes a bit of sense. I will look at it skeptically. Not that I'm going to do it. Don't stress out anybody. No one flip out. I'm just saying that I can see their logic, okay? But there's more to it. Now a number of comic book creators have decided to do the same. Nick Spencer, comic book writer best known for his work for Marvel Entertainment, was the liaison between Subtrack and a group of creators who starting Monday, will publish new comic book stories, essays, and how-to guides on the platform. All right, so one component here, Nick Spencer was the one that supposedly set this up. Nick Spencer set it up with some very, very big creators that are going over there to do this. Again, coordinated, because if one or two creators went over to Subtrack and started doing their thing there, my guess is that they would go unnoticed. What they're hoping for here is some kind of image effect. That's what I'm going to call it. If there's something big enough and loud enough in the industry that makes a big enough of a statement, you're going to draw much more attention to this new platform. And hopefully that 500,000 subscribers becomes 1 million subscribers or more that are interested in the platform. Now, I'm very skeptical of that actually changing, but what I am hoping is that this will actually terrify the big two. Let's read on though. Let's see. He said his approach. Let's see. He approached Chris Best, a Substack founder, with the idea last year when the pandemic was keeping many fans out of the comic book shops and the creators were looking for new ways to connect with readers. The initial lineup includes comic-centric newsletters from a bunch of people, with other writers and artists to be announced. Okay, so an idea from the pandemic has now come to fruition here. This has been months in the making, months of planning, at least months, if not a year. The creators will be paid by Substack while keeping ownership of their work. The company will take most of the subscription revenue in the first year. After that, it'll take a 10% cut. So this is essentially a publisher without a publisher. What many comic creators apparently are looking for is for an organization to take on the business aspects and the creators themselves to take care of the creative aspects. Isn't that the dream? If you could have a publisher or platform take care of the business stuff for you while you are free 100% to create and own all your stuff, isn't this the best possible scenario? Well, I mean, when you think about it, Image used to at least say that they filled, this section of the market, but what you're seeing is just that's not exactly the case. So if they can capture a segment of the market, have them go to Subtracks, now they've got something new. The problem is you're actually selling a new platform to an awful lot of people. Again, the biggest reaction I heard was, what on earth is Subtrack? Mr. Tinian, who last month won an Eisner Award, the comic industry's highest honor for Best Writer, said he would break away from writing Batman for DC Entertainment to devote time to his creator-owned series and Subtrack newsletter. This wasn't an easy decision, he said. In order to invest my time in new material, I needed to choose. I could not do both. Why not? Because a publisher wouldn't allow you to, or because financially it was stretching you too thin? That's curious. For his newsletter, one of his projects will be working with the artist Michael Avon Oming on Blue Book, stories based on testimonies about alien encounters. So you're essentially subscribing to a mailing list is what my understanding is, except it's a pay to join the mailing list. That's interesting. All right, so here's a quote. This is Hickman. I found the things you can potentially do with it to be very fascinating, he said. I love the idea of surprising the reader again with a new format. Everyone's leaning into this digital. This is actually a big gamble on digital. Let's see. Mr. Hickman, in his newsletter, is working with the artists Mike Del Mundo and Mike Huddleston on a new series, 3 Worlds, 3 Moons, in which they will let fans in on the process of building a fictional universe. How they're going to do that? We're treating it like a bunch of guys jamming together on a concept album. We're calling it a concept universe. The question is, can this concept album idea translate into paying the bills? Now, clearly, the mainstream comic book industry was not paying the bills. You would not see this happening if it was cutting it. It's clearly not. So part of me thinks that potentially this is a threat to Marvel to change things, to make them better for these top creators. I don't really expect Marvel to listen or rise to the challenge. I really don't see that happening, but who knows? Let's see. Scott Snyder, a veteran comic book writer who has taught creative writing at Columbia University, New York University, and Sarah Lawrence College, will offer great advice to budding comic book writers in his newsletter. I've always wanted to find a way to do it that would allow me to reach more students, as many as wanted to learn from me, while keeping the cost as low as possible, he said. Interesting. So one other thing I'm going to point out here is that subscriptions, $5 a month. That's where they start. They can go way up though. to get newsletters, to get on a mailing list. One thing I'd point out here is this is actually written by the New York Times. Is this an accident? No, it's not an accident. This is one of the few moments when you're going to get the normie press looking at what is happening in comics. This is exactly what they're hoping for. You get enough creators to leave, you're going to make a splash. What's notable, though, is that they haven't actually stated any major contentions with the big two. They haven't burned any bridges. So will this news last? I don't think so. I think you're going to hear about it a bit. The second thing is this is such a massive sale for new customers, like to convince them to go to this new platform and go for this mailing style, mailing list format is a massive change from how comics have been delivered in the past. So all in all, I think hopefully that this is scaring Marvel, that creators are willing to ditch, not just Marvel, but DC as well. They're willing to ditch the mainstream in order to do more of their own thing. So that's one. Two, it's potentially another avenue that could work for some creators. And all comics are good. Comics that are being bought and read is a good thing. I don't care who's making them or where they're making them. That's positive. I want the industry to thrive. I want that to happen. Ultimately, though, I think the best thing that we're getting out of this is competition, actually, and perhaps a little bit of news and a little bit of tension on comics. So I'm interested to see where this goes. I don't expect a lot from it as far as these creators that have gone to it. I don't expect masses of people to go there, but I do expect it to open some potential future doors in comics for many creators and perhaps inspire other publishers to try and compete or make what they have better. So let me know what you think in the comments below. I'm working very hard on getting Downcast to the print files together and sent off. I'm not going to lie. Part of the problem has been the backup story. I have been paralyzed by anxiety over it because I drew it. So I'm letting it all go. And we're just going to get the book printed. So really interested to know what you all think about that. And Charlie's working on it. I can't wait to get that book out, but onward and upward. So we'll be moving on. Anyway, thanks so much. I'll be shipping books out probably all throughout the rest of the year. So thanks everybody for these great opportunities, and I'll see you in the next video.